England scrape past Romania 1-0 in their final warm-up game ahead of Euro 2020. Still looking sluggish, still looking jaded from the end of a grueling Premier League season. What does this do for England's hopes ahead of this major tournament that kicks off for them in 1 week's time against Croatia? Marcus Rashford picked up the goal today, but does he really look ready to be starting games at Euro 2020? We want to take your calls. We want your views. We want your opinions in relation to this. Also, another big question to pose tonight. Who should be replacing Trent Alexander-Arnold in the England squad? Ward-Prowse had a good game tonight. Lingard looked sharp when he came on. Or should it be another defender, a Ben Godfrey or a Ben White, that comes into that position? We want to take your calls tonight. We want your views. We want your opinions. Smash that like button for us. Make sure you subscribe to the Football Terrace as well and turn on the bell notifications as well. Brand new intros will be ready for the start of the Euros next week. So we're not going to let the cat out of the bag around what they look like yet. So stay with us right now. Let's go to some of your comments that are coming in now. I want to know what you're all thinking and feeling. England are dead. I hear you on that. We look really poor tonight. There's no doubt about it. A lot of people here saying it should be James Ward-Prowse that makes it into the team. Eves here says Rashford overrated as well. Dead wood. But Grealish, superb again. And I agree with that element there. Jack Grealish for me tonight just oozed class. I felt a bit sorry for him, really, because I thought Calvert-Lewin for the majority of the game, Rashford for the majority of the game, and Jadon Sancho, his partners in those attacking positions. I thought they were poor tonight. I legitimately thought that they were poor tonight and should have done a lot better than they did. Absolutely agree with that. Get your live comments in. I want to know what you're thinking and you're feeling in relation to this, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to some more of your live chats here. Rashbeck. Listen, when it comes to England, I wouldn't mind a bit of Rashbeck because Danny Welbeck was very, very good in an England team. There's no doubt about it. Stephen here says, I don't get Southgate's tactic. If he's thinking of playing five at the back going forward, then where's the clear progression? There's clearly no progression. The one thing I would say for England, as a bit of a defence for them, is we've never had a build-up to a tournament where at least half of your starting 11 have not been available because of European finals, etc. So we've still got the likes of Ben Chilwell, Mason Mount, Raheem Sterling, Phil Foden to come back into the fray. Maybe Harry Maguire will return. We're not too sure yet about that. Harry Kane, of course, given a night off. So there's a lot of quality to be added to this squad. But what have we learned through these friendlies? That's the big point for me. What have we learned? And in my opinion, I think Ward-Prowse needs to go to this tournament in place of Trent Alexander-Arnold. One of the biggest reasons that I say that is because you're allowed to make 5 substitutions. People have to. 5 substitutions is important. It almost, without trying to sound overtly hyperbolic, it almost gives you the NFL style kicker option. It almost gives you an opportunity to, you know, last 20 minutes of this game, can't break a team down or they're giving away a lot of set pieces. Let's bring Ward-Prowse on. He's capable and has the ability to play in midfield and hold his own. We've seen him do that in the Premier League, but his delivery is exemplary. And the fact that Trent Alexander-Arnold would have also been a key set piece taker at times for England and a key set piece option, I think Ward-Prowse should step in for that reason. I thought he had a good game in midfield today as well. The other bit for me, what we've learned, Marcus Rashford isn't ready for this tournament. He has done exceptionally well, like the majority of professionals that have the ability to play through an injury. He did what he could this season. He's putting his body on the line, which I respect as a former competitor and athlete myself. I respect what he's doing because most professional athletes will tell you they go into most games, most fights, most tournaments carrying injuries, putting off surgeries, etc. It's just the nature of the beast. Anyone that doesn't understand that has never played football at the highest level or never had the determination to ever reach the top. But I don't think he's ready to start. He looked lackluster in the last 2 to 3 months for Manchester United, and he looks exactly the same in an England shirt right now. And I think he's holding the team. He got the penalty tonight, which was great. I was proud that he was captain in England. But very much for me tonight, when watching Marcus Rashford play, he was holding England back. He was holding England back. The play was slowing down because of him. And I think it took away from Jack Grealish's game as well. There's no doubt about it. In relation to another player tonight linked with Man United, Sancho, I thought he looked a little bit rusty as well. Not at his fluid best. So you then start to think about who can come in and replace these individuals. Well, we're probably not going to play 4-3-3 as we did at times tonight. 3 at the back. The fullbacks are going to give us the width. I actually think there's an argument to be made for playing Harry Kane as a striker with 2 players in behind him, and you're picking between Jack Grealish, Mason Mount, and Phil Foden. Right now, Raheem Sterling, Jadon Sancho, Rashford, I would leave all 3 of those players on the bench, at least for the opening game against Croatia anyway. And I'm basing that on the form of the Jack Grealishes, the Phil Fodens, and the Mason Mounts, as well as the fact that they just haven't delivered in these couple of pre-seasons, or been in great form from Rashford's point of view, or Raheem Sterling's perspective going towards the end of the season, although Sancho was doing bits for Borussia Dortmund. But I want your views and I want your opinions on that. The other final question I want to post tonight, I'm going to share the link for you to phone in and have your say. I want to ask about Jack Grealish, because could Jack Grealish be the player of the tournament? Legitimate question. Could Jack Grealish be the player of this tournament? Because tonight I saw a player oozing with class, and I'm so excited to watch him play at a major tournament. He gives me, I'm old enough to remember Paul Gascoigne. He gives me, I'm not saying he's as good, because Paul Gascoigne was next gen, but he gives me those Gaza vibes. He gives me those legitimate Gaza vibes. I'm going to go to some of your comments here. First one says, Southgate is a dead manager. How can you make so many good players look so bad? And I agree with that. Like, we should, the football should be more fluid, and it isn't. It really, really isn't. And it was a shame. And especially there's some players out there tonight that are fighting. There's a place open in this squad, right? There's a place open. I expected to see more tonight. Disappointed we didn't get that. Comment here says, Rashford doesn't deserve to have a pet dogs because he only cares about himself. That is what Manchester is Blue believes there. Ease Basuma says, no Saka, no party. Ruth Dixon says, happy to see Godfrey getting his caps, but hasn't looked as comfortable in international football as I would have thought. It's such a big step up in international football. It really is. The pressure that comes with it as well. The pressure that comes with that. We had another super chat that's come through here that I want to go to before it gets missed. I can't put it up on the screen, but it's from Michael Ramsey, who says, man, you really paying 95 million for that rubbish Sancho? Rashford is still trash. It doesn't matter who replaces Trent Alexander-Arnold. England is a international Tottenham. Listen, we might be, but it doesn't mean we're not going to cover them. It doesn't mean I'm not going to support them. It doesn't mean I'm not going to talk about what is best for them. Otherwise, what's the point of being a supporter? But I totally understand your point, and I do get where you're coming from in relation to England, the international tournaments. In relation to Sancho, we know Sancho's a baller. Didn't have a great night tonight. On Rashford, that you're entitled to call him Trashford. There's no doubt about that. You are, but we've seen it. We've seen him deliver. I just don't think he should be at this tournament. I think the shoulder injury and the ankle injury have gone on too long. I think it's taken its toll, and I would like to see Gareth Bale. Rashford, like any athlete, is going to say, I'll come if you need me. But it's not going to happen. But I would honestly like to see 2 announcements tonight. The replacement of Trent Alexander-Arnold be James Ward-Prowse. And I would like to see Marcus Rashford withdrawn from the squad, because I think his body needs the rest. I think he needs the surgery. I think we just need to take him out the firing line as well, if I'm being absolutely honest, because he doesn't look like he's about to have a great tournament, and he will just get dogs abuse for that reason if he isn't doing well. Man like Jem a few moments ago put in who his front 3 would be, and I do like that from him. Where's it gone? Too many comments. Says Kane, Grealish, Mount is who CFC Jem would pick. I'd like you to comment that as well. Who would your attacking 3 or quartet be, depending on the formation? Who would you pick and where would you play them? I'm going to share the link now for you all to come on and have your say this evening. We're going to put it on the Discord server. If you're not part of that Discord server, make sure you go into the link in the description below and get yourself signed up. I'm going to post it now in the general chat box for you to come on and have your say. Also, back tonight live at 9 o'clock as well. Big transfer news coming up for you. So make sure you're tuning in. I'm going to put a little link in now. I'm going to say call in now. We are talking England. We are talking Euros. And what you'll also see on the Football Terrace all across next week, shows coming out every day in the build-up looking at the groups, looking at who we think is going to win, going into a bit more detail, also sharing the panel's predictions with you as well. So very, very excited to bring those shows to you next week on the Terrace as we build up to the start of Euro 2020. Very exciting times ahead. I've shared that link now on the general chat page for you to come on and have your say. Let's go to some who you're all picking here. What do people expect from Rashford? He's been playing with 2 injuries all season, which is why they should be they shouldn't be taking him. Not because I'm worried about his long-term career, because it's common practice to play with injuries. It's more I want him taken out the firing line, and I want a player in the team that I think has more chance to deliver for my country. At the end of the day, we may not be favourites to win. People almost won't expect us to win, but I still want us to do the best we possibly can to win. Imagine that. I don't think we'll win, so we won't try. That's your attitude. Anyone who has that attitude to life, legit. I feel so. Honestly, I pity you, man. I pity you if that's how you think and feel towards these things here. Right, let's go to some of these calls here. First on the show, talking England. We're talking Jack Grealish. We're talking Rashford. We're talking Trent Alexander-Arnold's replacement. Phone us up. Give us your views and opinions. We're going to first go to Abs. Abs, we know, is a Chelsea fan. Watched England tonight. What do you want to say, buddy?
We were ridiculously poor today, Terry. Like, actually very, very poor in terms of, the way we're building up, in terms of how we're actually progressing with the ball. It took Jack Grealish coming on, and it took a penalty from Marcus Rashford to break down Romania. Now, not to be disrespectful to Romania, but look at the attacking talent we've got on offer, and we can't even, score a goal from urban play against these guys. Fair enough. In their defense, they defended quite well. They had a good few chances at the end as well. Sam Johnson, I think, had a good game. But yeah, just generally, I'm worried for the Euros because we've got a problem of there's loads of very talented footballers in this team, but we don't have the right man in charge to go and take us further. Yeah, I know he took us to the semi-finals. Yeah, I know he generally has a good record. But if you really want to, be successful in these Euros and compete with these teams, you need an actual manager who's going to play to the player's strengths. Like Graham Potter, for example. If you want an English manager who plays good football, his XG with Brighton, he should be 5th in the league. Why not bring him in? Harry Kane, who actually scores goals, bang. It's easy as that.
Look, I get the Gareth Southgate frustration. He's here, though, and he isn't going to be sacked before this tournament. There is just no way, shape, or form. But I do understand the frustration towards that. In terms of a few of the other questions tonight, Marcus Rashford, should he start against Croatia?
No. And it's partly down on what you've said. He's been playing with injuries for a while, and he hasn't been playing to the standards that we expect of him for a while either. Even though he still has had a good season overall, I think he could be a bit better if he just was taking a bit out of the firing line. I think he could. I think you still bring him in the squad because he is a valuable member of the squad. I'm just not sure he should be a regular starter because, in essence, my front three for England would be Kane, Grealish, and Sancho. That's who I'd start against, Croatia. So I don't reckon that Rashford should be starting in the next match. Maybe give him a few days where he's just out of the firing line because he looked knackered when he came off, to be honest.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Completely agree. Abs, thanks for coming on, mate, and having your say. Really appreciate that, bro. Top man. Thank you. Next up on the show, Liverpool fan Tom Little is here. Give me your thoughts on England's performance tonight.
Worrying. Worrying is the word I'd use. It's what I expect of England in these sort of friendlies. We're always a bit disappointed beforehand, but what worries me is the fact that he's trying this 4 at the back and it's not smashing teams that we should be smashing. We shouldn't be scraping 1-0 against Romania, and it worries me that he might go back to a 5-3-2 or something stupid, and we'll be wasting our best attacking talent. So we've got enough defenders back there so we can see games out, so we can scrape wins like we did at the World Cup. England right now as a squad is not that 2018 one. There was no expectations in 2018.
Yeah,
that squad was just there for the journey. But yeah, let's try and make it the best we can. Now, this is a squad that should be competing. It's improved over the past 2 years, 3 years. Should be challenging to reach semi-finals at the minimum. And I'm worrying that how are we going to get past the winners of Group F or whatever it is if we can't even beat Romania comfortably?
Yeah. Romania have averaged 2 goals conceded in, I think, every game they've played in the last couple of years. I want to say they got battered recently by what's their names? Germany. I heard I think I heard the commentator say that. I didn't actually research it and look at it myself. It was worrying that we just looked lackluster, and I have to be honest, it reminds me of watching Manchester United play, and that's been the most painful thing for me. Do you know what I used to love about being a Man United fan? Is that my team never looked as bad as England did. So it was always like, I always support my country at sport. I always will. No matter how good or bad we are at a particular sport. If England were playing America at ice hockey, I'd support us. Basket, I support us. Like, you always support your country. I think people that don't support their country are something strange about them. But it's painful for me to watch just how bad we are. But with the talent that we've got, it's worrying. On Marcus Rashford, do you think he should be starting against Croatia?
No, because we don't want another Rooney situation. I've worried about Rashford playing through these injuries. As an England fan, I've worried about him playing through these injuries because it screams of another Rooney situation where he's burnt out come 30. And you never really get to see the best Rashford for long enough. Because if you're playing through these injuries constantly, they'll catch up and your body will just pack it in too early. That's why Rooney, once he hit 31, he just weren't the same. He was struggling. He's having to try and play new positions to try and reimagine himself. I want Rashford. I agree with you. I think he shouldn't be going because he needs, for the future of the national team, for the future of his career, he needs the surgeries this summer to correct everything. And when it's a mixture of the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer runs him into the ground. How many times he played because of injury, even when he's injured? That's where you got to look after your players.
I agree with you completely in terms of. I'm not sure about his career and the burnout element as of yet, as such. It's more I'm more protecting him from the abuse that he's going to get. People in this country are desperate for one reason or another, whether it's football or political reasons. There are groups of people, by the way, that will partner each other in crime towards. You just see it; they are chomping at the bit to get him. And I just want him. I can look at a player that's not in form, that's carrying an injury, and look, listen. If we end up knocking 2 or 3 goals past Croatia, not just big if, the expectations are instantly there, and we know what happens in this country when there's expectations on our players. A final question for you: who should replace Trent? Who should that be? Who should that be announced as?
Considering the lack of set piece sakes, it's got to be James Ward-Prowse. Considering how much we like to rely on our corners and our free kicks to create chances, it has to be him. Because who are we relying on now? I don't want to go back to 2016 where Harry Kane's having to take them. I don't want that. And just a quick one on the Henderson thing, the penalty. I don't know why he's taking them. But that's not a reaction I normally see off him. I've never seen him be like that, like so assertive to get the ball. I think, and maybe defensively he's my captain, but I think they must have agreed that he was a designated penalty taker or something, because he never normally does that. And it's very out of character for him.
Yeah, I tweeted and called him a muppet, more so, not because I actually support all play, not because he's a Liverpool player. If Declan Rice would have done that, I'd have said the same thing. Let your finishers take the damn penalties for me and whatnot. And it looked like
he deserved one. He deserved a goal today.
Yeah. I just hope that. Listen, you mentioned it earlier with Rashford. I've seen it before with England. Youngsters watching may not have done. I've seen us take players that are not fit to tournaments, and it's never, ever, ever ended well for us. And I hope that just isn't a slight sign of desperation from him wanting to prove himself. Listen, Tom, great form, mate. Thanks for coming on and having your say. Really appreciate it, mate. Top man. Comment here says, if Southgate won't play Grealish, Foden in midfield and use them as wide men, Ward-Prowse over Lingard doesn't make sense. Another super chat here says, Terry, how would you react if Johnson replaces Trent Alexander-Arnold? Pulled off some good saves tonight, that young man did, to be fair. Pulled off some really good saves. Happy for him, making his debut. United Academy player as well. Make sure you're hitting that like button, subscribing to the Football Terrace tonight as well. It means a great deal to us. We had another super chat here. We couldn't get it up in time because we were on the call, but it says, Terry, do you think there will be more fluidity with Chelsea and Man City players playing with their possession-based fluid football styles? Yes, I do. I think with Harry Kane in the team, I think with Foden, I think with Mason Mount, 110%. There'll be more fluidity, even with our proper backline in. So the Joneses, I think Harry Maguire's going to end up playing, as an example, a proper right back in. We'll be able to play out better from the back. So there are better technical football players to come back into this team. There is no doubt about it. Even midfield wise, we had, in my opinion, our two best midfielders not starting tonight in Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham. There was yes, they're coming on against tired legs, but there was an instant uplift in the performance when they came on. There was also a formation switch as well, to be fair, and we look better. And that's also what I hope for from Gareth Southgate at this tournament. Am I his biggest fan? No. Am I one of these people that won't look for any positives at any point ever? No, I can't live my life like that because I'm not a negative Nelly. I'm not one of those people. I want to see change. I don't mind starting in a 3-4-3 or a 5-3, whatever. Like I'm actually getting confused. You know why I get confused? I actually saw a Chelsea fan the other day moan about playing three at the back, said he hates watching it, but he loves Tuchel's system. It's all about, like you know the saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So you know what I mean? It's this kind of like, I've seen England play with 5-3, 5-3-2 and a 3-4-3 are the exact same formation. It's just dependent of whether you're in possession or not, or whether the person talking about it likes that team, that manager, or not. But essentially, it's the same formation. You know, a 4-2-3-1 and a 4-3-3, fairly similar in game. So it isn't about starting position. It's about where players drift, the spaces and pockets they move into, and then the patterns of play that emerge. That's the one thing I didn't see tonight. Where were we trying to get the ball to end up to score goals? It didn't seem to be that. And maybe it's because it was very much a team, quite a few starters tonight are not even going to the tournament. So maybe it's a little bit unfair in relation to that. I want your views. I want your opinions. I want you to call up and have your say. Next on the show, we've got Mohammed. We know he's a Liverpool fan. He's on here to speak to us about England. What you saying, mate?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to speak about Henderson's penalty miss. If it was like a different player, nothing would have been said about it. There's too many people complaining because it's a Liverpool player that he missed a penalty. I mean, if it was a different player, I wouldn't be complaining. I'm just saying that other people are complaining about it.
Yeah, look, for me, I would have been moaning about it if it was anybody that took it off of a finisher. I wouldn't want to see Henderson take a penalty in front of Grealish, in front of Rashford. I know Rashford wasn't on the pitch, in front of Calvert-Lewin, in front of any of these players. I don't want that. Let the goal scorers take it, win 2-0, build a bit of confidence. For him now, I feel like he's under even more pressure to prove himself because he missed it, if that makes sense. That's why I'm calling him a Muppet, because of the ramifications of it. So it's going to be an interesting one to see what happens. From your point of view, how are you feeling about England's chances, the way we're playing ahead of the tournament?
It's hard to tell at the moment. I think because if we win our group, we have to play one of the teams in that group of death, don't we? So I don't know. It's very hard. I need to see the first couple of games in the group stages to see how we do. And I think the person to replace Arnold in the team should be Lingard, because we've got so many fullbacks anyway. So might as well put another midfielder / attacker in there.
Mate, yeah, I agree. I don't think we need any more defenders. I really, really don't. I think we're more than capable in that kind of area. There's no doubt about it. Ward-Prowse, I was really impressed with Ward-Prowse tonight. His tenacity, his press, good at moving the ball. And do you know what? All things being well, do I want to start him against Croatia? No. Do I want to? I'm just looking here at this thing. Do I want to start him against Croatia? No. Do I want to start him against Scotland, though? Maybe. If we beat Croatia and beat Scotland, do I start him against the Czech Republic? One thing we've got an opportunity to do at this tournament, and I want to see Southgate do it, especially with 5 substitutions, is more rotation. What I've noticed with England, my whole life growing up, is this notion of, and I want to try and say this in the right way without being disrespectful, but it's hard not to. We've taken 23 men generally. We've got a bigger squad this time, but we take 23 men, and you'd only really see 13 or 14 of them play at any point. And we'd always end up putting ourselves into a situation where we couldn't rotate for the final game. I actually think we need to rotate regardless. I think that the team that starts against Croatia, I want to see 4 or 5 changes for the Scotland game. Legitimately, to keep people fresh, because we should be getting through this point. I don't want to be going into the, fingers crossed, going into the first knockout game against Portugal or against Germany, the 2 that we're most likely to get, with Harry Kane, who's already played 3, 4, 90-plus minute games. Grealish has played 90 minutes every game. I mean, Declan Rice has played 90 minutes every game. Bellingham, 90 minutes every game. We need to better rotate. And I look at someone like Ward-Prowse, and I see him as, he's good enough to run a midfield against Scotland, as an example. So bring him for that. You could almost look at it with a 26-man squad. You could bring Ward-Prowse as a late substitute if you need better deliveries into the box from free kicks. And you could literally bring him to be one of the starting midfielders against Scotland. That could be his whole tournament. 26-man squad. You've got 3 extra players. Bring 3 wild cards that you want to use for particular games or particular moments. That's what I would do if I was Southgate right now. And he's got that opportunity. There's no doubt about it. Listen, bro, thank you for calling in and having your say. Top man, thank you. Hamid here says Ward-Prowse over Lingard all day long. Another super chat here from my guy, Louis, who says, good stuff from you English lads today. Since my home country, Greece, isn't I'm rooting for your boys. I had a blast on the show this morning. Not a problem at all, my guy. And listen, Greece not being there, but at least they've had some international glory more recently than 1966, the last time my boys even looked, well, did anything. We've had a couple of semi-finals since, and that's it. Dequan's going to be on with us next to have his say. Welcome back to the terrace, mate. What are you here to say?
I watched the England versus Romania game. 1-0, Rashford scoring a penalty. I don't know what Henderson was doing for this, taking the penalty and all that, missing the penalty. Now it's even more pressure on him to perform as well. And then you look at it, I'm looking at England. They have a lot of a talent, especially in the attacking department. But I'm just seeing it. I don't want to be proved right, but I think England could get knocked out in the round of 16. I don't want to be proved right. I want England to go very far in the tournament, prove everyone wrong. But it's even more pressure on them now to deliver because in the 2018 World Cup, there was no pressure on England. Hence England did their thing in that tournament. But now it's even more pressure on them to perform. You got Croatia in the group, you got Scotland in the group, and you've got the Czech Republic in the group. I'm looking at it from a viewpoint, thinking, yeah, England should coast through the group, but you never know in these kind of tournaments. That's the thing. And then if England win the tournament, then you're mainly gonna get either Portugal or Germany from that group of death group. So it's gonna be a very tough game in the knockout round.
Mate, I couldn't agree with you more. And we need to. Do you know the irony though? We'll win the group, but France will come second or something, or like France will have. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? But you never know. Sometimes I did look at something. Coming second in the group could actually be better for us. But do you know what it comes down to? I don't think we can think like that. I think we've got to try and win the group. And if we end up coming second, you could end up finding yourselves with an easier route. And at the end of the day, doesn't matter what, at some point in a tournament, you have to play a very good team. And last 16 or semi-finals, it's all the same. The only thing about going further in the tournament is you just get that extra euphoria, that extra build up, and it lasts a little bit longer for the home, for the home nations and or for you supporting your country. There's something about this tournament that, do you know the irony in all of it is? I've been saying it for days now. I'm so nervous and worried about it, as opposed to thinking we're going to do well. Sometimes I've watched England in the build up to tournaments before the World Cup in 2006. We were slapping teams up, hat tricks and loads of goals against Jamaica and other countries. And we were like, yeah, we're going to go there and kill it. And we didn't. Maybe it's going to work in reverse. Maybe being so poor in the build up is going to lower those expectations and help the team when it comes to, I'd rather not be peaking now, if that makes sense. I'd rather even start the group stages slowly and maybe even at the World Cup 3 years ago now, I felt like we peaked in the group stages and we fizzled out towards the end. We actually want to start off a little bit slower. But who knows, mate? Who knows? Listen, my guy, thanks for phoning up and having your say. Really appreciate it, buddy. Top man. Remember the big questions tonight, people. Should Rashford start against Croatia? Who, in your opinion, should be replacing Trent in this England squad? And Jackie Grealish, could he be the player of the tournament? We've got Rack to come. We've got Abs to come. We've got Ellie to come. We've got Donny James to come. But first, this will be an interesting take. Man like Safe is here. What are you saying, Safe?
Hey, Terry, how are you?
I'm all right, mate. You look very smart. What have you been up to today?
Yeah, well, I went out. So, yeah, I went out. I had to do something. I always wear a shirt and jeans. Even tomorrow, when I'm going to go to work, I'm going to wear a shirt and jeans. It's normal.
I love it. Why do you always wear a shirt and jeans? What's the rationale behind that?
It's easier, especially in work. Like, you don't really want to wear a suit in work. It's not comfortable because I work with cables. I go underneath the desk. I change the cables. So that's why I wear jeans. It's more comfortable.
I get that, but why were you wearing it today? You weren't under desk.
No, because I went for shopping. I normally wear shirts. I'll go for shopping and I wear shirts.
You like to be smart. I like that.
I like to be smart. At least if a lady came to me, she said, "Oh, sweetheart, come to me," then maybe I can get her number. Like, you never know. You never know your luck.
Has that ever happened to you, Safe?
At work, yes, I have had a woman that called me sweetheart. I tried to approach her, and I did land myself in a lot of problem. So, any woman that calls me sweetheart, I say thank you so much. I'm here just to help you. So I'm not gonna say, "Oh, you're in love with me." Nothing like this crap.
Yeah, just because a lady uses the word sweetheart or darling, it doesn't instantly mean they find you attractive. They're just being polite.
Yeah.
Okay, though, we will swiftly move on from this conversation as enthralling as it is. Yes, what do you want to say?
Well, angry at Southgate is a defensive manager. He's too negative. For me, I don't understand why he doesn't play 4-3-3. So if Rashford is not fit, so my main option would be Rashford, Harry Kane, and Sancho on the right-hand side. The midfield would be Foden, Henderson, Jamie Henderson, the end player, and another midfield player. I might play Grealish as a midfield player because he's quite good tackling and passing the balls from the midfield. Then I'll play Luke Shaw, a centre-back. Next to him, I'll play Harry Maguire. And a right-back, maybe I might play Tripper if he's available. And a goalkeeper...
So Rashford, we're asking the question tonight, should Rashford start? What's your opinions?
Well, Rashford isn't fit. He needs to rest. He cannot... He's been playing 90 minutes, but I just...
Let me ask you a question, Safe. Jack Grealish, could he be the player of the tournament? Is he good enough?
Yes, because one thing you love about Jack Grealish is he can play in a variety of positions, CM, DM, as a left wing, right wing. So he's a fantastic player. He could be a good player for England, but as I said to you, Southgate needs to be playing attacking football. If we play against France, I play 4-3-3. I just go at France. What would I be negative for? What do you think, Terry?
Mate, listen, I'll let the viewers answer that question. My guy, Safe, thanks for coming on, mate. Love the stories as well. Take care, buddy. Thank you very much indeed. He's a mad one. Next up, Rax here, Liverpool fan. What are you here to say, mate?
You're right, sweetheart.
Do you love me? Wow. Rax loves me. What are you here to say, mate?
England, man. I was chatting to a friend the other day, and I was like, when was the last time England really played free-flowing, attacking, dynamic football? And
Panama.
Yeah, but I mean, at a high level, like against good quality opposition. And I don't know, man. I don't know if it's a Southgate thing or if it's just our footballers have got a mental block when it comes to the national team. But it's really sad because the talent is there. We've got good enough players, and it's just unfortunate that I get bored watching England. Like, I fell asleep watching part of that game. It was only for a couple of minutes, but I'm just not enthused. I wasn't enthused going into the World Cup. Maybe that's a good thing. We got to semi-finals and stuff. But as soon as we came up against anyone who was decent, like Croatia, we obviously fell apart. And it's it's sad, in my opinion, because we've got talent.
I hear you. It is frustrating to see. It really is, because we should, and I say should like respectfully, we should be playing and performing better than we do. But I do think it's a Southgate thing. I do think it's the way we set up to play and move, because we used to see this. It's always been a manager thing with England. And what I mean by that is, I always remember, do you know one player I feel really sorry for right now in world football in general is Wayne Rooney. Not that he's a player anymore. What I would have loved for him to have been able to play with the quality of attackers that England have at their disposal now. I always felt he was playing with dross, really. For the majority of his career, the other attackers with him were nowhere near, in my opinion, the standard. Like I saw, Michael Owen was towards the end of his things. Like, Crouch was a good striker, as an example. Beckham was towards the end of his career at that point as well. But who did we have, really, that was of Rooney's level, that was around him? But I used to hate it when he used to get attacked. And I'm like, England don't play football like Man United, so why do you expect Wayne Rooney to perform in the same way? Do you get where I'm coming from? There's almost Argentina don't play football as good as Barcelona, so why do people expect Messi to be as good for Argentina? Do you get where I'm coming from? And I think that, of course, you should expect him to be good, and he has had good tournaments in terms of individually, but it's what the team, what's the team set up to do? And it comes to management, and the second element comes to managing expectations. But that's part of the management, isn't it? It's part of the management, because the Germans are going into this very unfancied, but you wouldn't bet against them getting to at least a semi-final. Do you get what I'm coming from? We don't have that mentality.
The thing is, they've got a structure and they've got a way of playing. The thing is, most of our big clubs also play in a dynamic attacking style. And I don't know if Southgate's playing three at the back to try and compensate for that, or because maybe our defensively we're not quite as good. But it shows that the players are capable, because they're doing it week in, week out. And even when we've had world class managers like Fabio Capello, okay, I mean, this is a bit of a different point because he wasn't a free flowing attacking manager precisely. But even we've had really good managers, we've still struggled to reach those heights, and it baffles me. And I don't really know what the answer is, because we've had good managers and it hasn't worked, and we've had great players and it hasn't worked. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but it's a bit of a puzzle.
That's where it comes to mentality for me, and I think there's a mental block. People call us the international Spurs, and I do think that's a very fair comparison.
Now you mentioned it, yeah.
It's this. Have we got the cojones to get there? I mean, if any manager and group of players ever made us win a major tournament, the country would come to a standstill, because people really want it. But do you know what's really hard for people? It's so hard to lower your expectations because of how good the players are. You go into this, we know defensively there are some holes. We know that. But when you think about a fully fit team, right? How many countries, forget the back, how many countries, how many countries have definitely better goalkeepers? Maybe quite a few, the big boys maybe, right? But Pickford is still better than most of the other goalkeepers at this tournament, in my opinion. We've got some of the best left backs, some of the best right backs, centre backs, questionable. I totally get that, right? But we've still got pretty good centre backs. Midfield, how many have actual complete better midfielders than us? You'd say France definitely do, as an example. Germany definitely do. But you start to look down at it, and you start looking at it player for player, and it's like, well, actually, on paper, we're on par with a lot. You start to go to our attack. How many countries, legitimately, pound for pound, across every position, have better attackers than we do? Not very many. And of course, there are attackers out there, Mbappe's and the like, the
individuals, sure, yeah.
But like, as a group, we've got a very good squad, so there should be an expectation. Our problem is our country, doesn't have a club mentality. There's always a disconnect, and then they can't handle the pressure. Lots of people in the comments saying Spain, and listen, Spain and Portugal, of course, they have a number of players in their squads that are as good as or better than players in our squad. The point I'm making is there are very few squads. France are one of them, as an example, where you go through it and nearly every single player you go, actually, France's is better. England, if you did a lineup by lineup, 26 men versus 26 men, England would win you played top trumps, the card game.
Yeah.
Like, we'd win a lot of top trumps. We would come out pound for pound, player for player, on paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got very good papers, but it's bringing it together. Yes, some of that is tactics, but a lot of it is mentality, and it's players believing in themselves. Because I'm telling you now, if our players were German with the same ability, when we went 1-0 up in that World Cup semi-final, we would have seen it through. Going up 1-0 the way we did, it gave us a nosebleed, and we never recovered from that point. And we got a little bit. I've seen boxers do it and fighters do it, where they're the underdog and they knock the opponent down, and then they get a little bit giddy, and then they get caught because they're not. If they just carried on fighting in the same way, kept their heads, they would have won. But yeah, for me, it's just mentality all the time, mate. Always.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to be interesting. Look, ultimately, I'm not really that enthusiastic about the tournament right now, but I know next week, as soon as the games start kicking off and you start seeing who's doing what, you know, and in that 90 minutes, it's going to be fun to watch, hopefully. But kind of similar to how it was in 2018. I don't have any particularly high hopes, but you know, that's always good in the sense that if something does happen, then you're surprised, and we'll see what happens.
Mate, absolutely. Rack, thanks for coming on, mate, and having your say.
Okay,
top man, thank you. But still got Donny James to come, Ellie to come, Abs to come. We're going to go to man like Jem first of all to have his say today. Jem, thanks for coming on, mate. England scraped through ahead of this tournament. Loads of things to talk about. First question I want to pose to you, mate. Should Rashford start against Croatia?
Hell no. And it's not even because I think Rashford's, like a lot of people would think, this is no salt. I'm actually really thinking about Rashford in terms of himself. He's physical. Like he just doesn't look fit enough. Like he really doesn't look fit enough, Terry. Like the guy is struggling with these injuries. It's very clear. I actually think he's becoming a bit of a burden. And I know it sounds really bad to say, but I think he's becoming a burden to the England squad. I think he's actually, in many ways, holding certain individuals back. I think there's a lot more to come from these players, and I don't think we'll play the same formation as we did today. Don't get me wrong. I think you will see the three at the back, and it will switch up. But I look at Marcus Rashford, and I look at a player that needs a break. You need to play people in form, and at the moment, Marcus Rashford is not in form, and it's not his fault, you know. And we've got enough talent on the bench to be able to replace him. And even if we had to drop him, like you said earlier, even if Gareth Southgate announced him not going, I wouldn't be shocked. I actually think it's a very good move. Take a Jesse Lingard, someone that's actually in form at the moment for West Ham. It's not like we haven't got options. You know, it makes no sense.
Mate, I completely agree. I was still the form thing. If Rashford didn't have the injuries but was out of form, he would still go because he can have those moments of brilliance in a team. But it's a combination of two. I literally, if I was Southgate right now, I would pull Rashford aside and say, I know I've announced you in the squad, but we can still make changes, and I'm going to give you that rest. Go and have your surgery. Go and rest. Take yourself out the limelight for this. Like Rashford done so many great things this year on the pitch, earlier on in the season, so many amazing things off the pitch. It's almost this case of go and have a quiet summer, Rashford. Go and have a quiet summer. Get your head down. Get yourself ready, because you're still only 23 years of age. He scored his 100th career goal tonight, which is very good for an inside forward at the age of 23. But he just needs to be taken out of the limelight.
Terry, you're never going to get a player turn around and say, yeah, I need to have a break. Yeah, I need to have a rest, especially in a massive competition like that. I really do think it's down to Southgate as a manager to make that decision for him more than anything. And it's for his best interest. Yeah, it really is for his best interest. And Southgate should really look at that. And the thing is, I see him talking straight after the game. They were talking about who would be your front three to start next week to Ian Wright and Ashley Cole. And they all turned around and said, Rashford. It's just like they hadn't seen the way we played today, you know. And I just think there's so much pressure on the guy, and it's not just that. The fans will burn him for it. The fans, I know our fans. If he ends up going there and he puts absolute stinkers of performances in, everyone will throw him under the bus, and I don't want that for him because he is a top quality player.
Mate, I hear you on that. I really do, bro. Thank you very, very much.
No worries.
For coming on, mate, and we'll speak to you again soon. Top man, thank you. Next with us, Ellie is here. Ellie, welcome to the terrace. What do you want to say, mate?
Look, first I want to say a win is a win, whether it's a friendly or a tournament or whatever. But England are boring to watch. England are so boring to watch. In terms of quality, we have alongside France probably the best team in the Euros. But I just don't have faith in Southgate at all. Like, he's tactically naive. And I know people tell me, oh, England reached the World Cup semifinals. But look who we played. Tunisia, Panama, Sweden. When we faced a strong team against Croatia, he had no idea what he was supposed to do, and we lost. Same Nations League, same thing. We lost to Netherlands. So look, if Southgate is in charge, and he will be for the Euros, I think we will be, or England will be out in the round of 16. Because I think we're better than Germany, for example. But are you really, Terry, and answer me this, are you really going to trust Southgate in a game against Germany?
No, I don't. And that's because, we should be better now than we were 3 years ago, because Southgate's had a lot longer to work with us. What's really frustrating is we're a year later going into this tournament. So there shouldn't be, I still don't feel like, and this is the fact, we don't know what our strongest squad is. Southgate doesn't know. I don't even know if Southgate really knows who his strongest team is, what formation he's actually going to use. And I understand that there's an element of positivity around none of us know. We don't know. Our opponents don't bloody know. So that gives us half a chance. But I don't think me and you don't not know because it hasn't been revealed. We don't know because Southgate don't know. And if he doesn't know, what's the plan? How well drilled is that plan? The Germans, in my opinion, the Italians, the Italians, the Germans, and the Spanish and the French, they all know what they're doing. And I'm telling you now, Didier Deschamps, he's going to know, barring injury, who's starting every single game in the group stages. We don't plan like that as a nation. It's almost like we plan it depending on the situation. Well, the most successful nations, they plan that group stage methodically ahead of time. They have the confidence in the play. Like I said earlier, Ward-Prowse, for me, should be in for Trent. And Ward-Prowse should be looked at as you are starting against Scotland regardless. Because
Ward-Prowse for me is in my starting 11, my preferred 11 for the Euros, in my team.
Wow.
It's I want to play 4-3-3. Pickford in goal. Central backs, if Maguire is fit, obvious. If not, I don't rate Mings or Cody. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Ben White, maybe. I don't know. Stones next to him. Right back, Reece James. Left back, Chilwell or Shaw. CDM Rice. My two central midfielders are Mason Mount and James Ward-Prowse. Because tell me someone who's going to play alongside Mason Mount at the moment who's better than James Ward-Prowse. Henderson might not be fit. Calvin Phillips is inexperienced. Jude Bellingham is still young.
I think it's a fair. I mean, the thing is, Ward-Prowse isn't actually in the squad, so it makes it harder to debate. But I hear you on that, and I watched him tonight. His free kicks are amazing. He's good enough. He's good enough to be part of this squad. He should be the replacement for me. Ellie, great call, mate. Thanks for coming on and having your say. Viewers, do you agree with Ellie? Should Ward-Prowse be starting in those positions? Next up on the show, Abs is here. What are you saying, Abs?
I'm good, big man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well. What you phoned up to say, mate?
Yeah, I'm caught up about a few things. Firstly, with the Rashford thing, it's literally Rashford has just got an agenda. There's an agenda against Rashford because the way I've heard everyone talk today, they made it look like he was the worst person on the field. I don't think he was the worst person on the field. In the first half, I thought he was the most exciting person out of the front three. I feel like you said, he's carrying an injury, but you said something which is true. We've got an attacking force which can rival any European team. It depends how Southgate uses it. So, for example, if we're versing a Scotland, I think Phil Foden and Jack Grealish should start out wide. If we're versing a Croatia, I think it should be Jadon Sancho and Rashford to hit them on the counter. It depends on how he uses it. And personally, like the last caller, I feel like our midfield should be based on Jude Bellingham and Mason Mount in the midfield three. Calvin Phillips, I know David has been saying he's not a believer, and I've seen him a few times for England, and I'm starting to not be a believer as well. I feel like he's actually not good. I think James Ward-Prowse is a better player than him. And yeah, I feel like tactically, Southgate has to get it right going from game to game than picking his starting 11. And that's why I think England will get joy out, except for just saying, oh no, it's the starting 11. They must go every single game.
Mate, I hear a lot of what you're saying there. The rotation is going to be key. We need to do that at this tournament. It's been a long, hard sort of 15 months for professional football players, and the squads are bigger. 5 substitutions are allowed. I just pray to God that Southgate doesn't pull an Ollie and barely makes substitutions or leaves them too late and doesn't rotate. Because even if we go into this competition and hit form and we look brilliant, if you don't have the rotation, if you don't use the subs regularly enough, you will burn out. You know, it's going to be warm, it's going to be hot. No disrespect, but our players don't cope well. Like, our players have never coped well playing football when it's warm. You see it on our faces. We just struggle. And of course we struggle. Even play because when you play all the time in England, you're acclimatized to it. All the other nations, well, not all of them, all the other successful nations, probably barring Germany. I don't know how odd it is in Germany for the part of the year. I can't believe it's too different to England. You know, the Spanish and the Italians, they play percentage of their seasons in very, very warm weather. You know, they come from much warmer countries. They're more acclimatized to playing in the heat, in my opinion. And England will struggle with that. Rotation's key. It really is key.
And the other thing people need to understand, this fixation of England don't play fluid football. No big country plays fluid football. Can we get that nonsense out of our heads? Even France, who for me are the best team in the world at the moment, are a pragmatic team. This fluid football thing is not big. It's more the small and medium countries that play the fluid football. Even Spain now, when you watch them, it's not the same Spain as before. So can we stop this fluid football thing? Because it's actually annoying. I feel like as England fans, we should just enjoy the competition. At the end of the day, I don't have England winning it. I think we can, but I think if we get to a semi-final, that's good. And that's it. It's literally, I think England fans, we are our own worst enemies, me personally.
Mate, I hear what you're saying, bro. Abs, thanks for calling in and having your say. I appreciate that, bro. Next up with us, he's a Canadian in the house to give his saying England. Man like you gals here. What you saying, bro?
Terry, I have a genuine question for all the England fans. Are you guys worried that you haven't seen the closest thing to your full-strength team yet in these friendlies?
Worried, yes. Has it been possible? No. The fact that you sort of look, I didn't think about it in the build-up to this, but Man United, Chelsea, and City having got themselves to European finals made it impossible. You know, Saka got his first goal the other night. He would not have scored that goal if Arsenal were in the Europa League final because he wouldn't have been there. So yeah, it's been difficult for us in that regard. It's our country doing well at club level in Europe has had a slight impact on everything else. But listen, if I'm being honest, I've seen us look brilliant in the build-up to tournaments in friendlies and then bomb. So I'm not going to read too much into it, if that makes sense. I'm more concerned with the fact that I don't think Southgate has a plan for this group stage. And I think he's going to burn us out.
Okay, so the reason why I say this is because I watched the France versus Wales, right? And I've seen the team, and I remember they only had like 2 changes from what I would say is their full strength team. And not having what do I always say in football? You need to have some sort of continuity and consistency with the players that are out there. And you can make major changes in a tournament, but if you're going to play in the knockout rounds of the tournament, you're not going to have the 3 games. You're going to have at least somewhat of a similar team, somewhat of a center back pairing, somewhat of a midfield that knows how to work together when they're coming and going. And if England is going to chop and change as much as Terry, as you want rotation, you cannot chop and change in the group that you're in. You have Scotland, you have Czech Republic, and you have Croatia. Scotland are not the worst team in the world, but they're still decent. Czech Republic, they have some good up-and-coming players. And you know what? With Croatia, the team that's aging, they still have a lot of experienced heads that have played together for years. So this England team, they're gonna have to be able to get acclimatized with each other quickly and play together, because a bunch of these guys might play with each other in the England national team, but they play against each other week in, week out. They don't know their best traits. They don't know what that person next to them is going to be doing.
I understand your point, but there has to be rotation. And maybe you don't take Harry Kane out for the Scotland game as an example, but you have to rotate key players. England have burnt themselves out in nearly every tournament they've been in. You will see the major nations do this. I almost guarantee you, in over France's first 3 games, Germany's first 3 games, Spain might not do it because at this moment in time, but they've done it in the past. You will see a key player or two. You think, I'm surprised he's not starting. Somebody else steps up, but it's about keeping them fresh. I understand that the notion of it's important to win every single game, but you also have to play a tournament football like this is a game of chess. And sometimes you have to take a slightly risky move early on to save yourselves for later. It's a bit like being on an entertainment show. If you're a singer, it's fine. Right? Imagine you're a comedian and you're on an entertainment show. You can't tell your best jokes in round 1, can you? You tell your best strokes in round one, you're never going to be as good later on. England almost need to save their best for later in the tournament. Now, some will argue, yeah, but we might not then get there. Well, we should be good enough to get there. We should be good enough to rotate against Scotland and the Czech Republic to get out of this group. With all due respect, we're still better than them. And by the way, you rotate, and if it gets to 60, 70 minutes and you're 0-0, then you can go to your bench and bring people on. But they've still had a 60-minute rest into a game. We have to do it. It's killed us in every major tournament that I have ever watched. We get to the knockout stages, and the same tired legs come out for their 4th game in 2.5 weeks, and they look knackered. We should have rested Harry Kane more at the last World Cup. He died out towards the end of the tournament. We didn't. He might have got 2 or 3 less goals overall, but he would have been fresh for that Croatia game. And even in that Croatia game, he was left on when he was dead on his feet. And it's that kind of decision-making that I think will kill us more than anything else, because I've seen it now for the last 25 to 30 years as an England fan.
And what has the friendlies taught us? Yes, everyone always changes their rotations, but what has it actually taught you from what's the best system going forward? Because you don't know the players that are going to be playing. You don't know what's going to be happening. You don't have a majority of your players fit. And a lot of the teams that have players from Chelsea and Man City and Manchester United are going to have the same problems. But when it comes to England, you guys are going to suffer the most from this, because the majority of your best players have not played together yet. You've had Jack Grealish and Rashford out there, but you haven't had Harry Maguire out there once. You haven't had John Stones out there once. You haven't had Raheem Sterling, if he's even in the team, out there once. So these things are going to affect you. France is only missing Conte and a couple of guys. You know what I mean?
No, of course, and that's but that just can't be helped. The fact that we did very well as a nation to get to all these European Cup finals, that can't be helped. What I will say is a lot of the regulars have played together on a regular basis in over the last 3 years, so there'll be much more familiarity with them as opposed to the group that we've seen play. So there's pros and cons to that. I mean, the other side to it is they could probably have done with the rest, to be fair, rather than playing in these friendlies. So that might benefit us. Who knows? There are some positives to it. I'm more concerned about the rotations that moving forward. Listen, bro, we'll see you a little bit later on tonight for the transfer show. Speak to you soon, Gal. Man, thank you. We'll do some final calls very, very quickly if we can. Abs, first of all, says Rashford only forward we have that runs in behind. But this is also true. So I saw a lot of people kicking off and moaning about the whole, why are we the only country that relies on running in behind? This is a false narrative. No matter how good the tippy tapper is, no matter how good the passing is, no team is successful without players that runs in behind. You need someone to break a line to create space. So that's the one thing Rashford brings that none of our other attackers really give us in that same way. It spreads the play. It creates openings. So if Rashford doesn't play, someone's got to step up. 2 final calls we're going to do here. First, Fixer's on the show. What are you saying, Fixer?
Hey, hi. Yeah, I just wanted to say, in regards to Southgate, first of all, I think Southgate gets a lot of unfair stick, to be honest. I don't think he deserves all the lambasting is getting, because at the end of the day, think about it. Southgate got England to the semi-finals last time out in the World Cup, didn't he? Yeah. I mean, that's mad. Fabio Capello didn't do that. I don't think he did that. What's the name of the other guy? What's the name of that guy? Steve McLaren didn't do that. I don't remember him doing that. I don't remember any England manager doing that, actually. Apart from those guys that won it in the '66 World Cup or something. Semi-finals, So, I mean, what Southgate is lacking, what I think England is lacking here, is players who can play football. Okay, think about it. All those guys, they can all play football, right? But there's something missing when it comes to England. They don't have that. I don't know how to explain. They don't have that, that soul about it. They don't have that. They don't have that. What differentiates them from the German team or the Italian team or the Spanish team? They don't have that.
It's belief.
Okay, yeah. Call it belief. You see the way the Spaniards play and Italians play. Even if they lose matches here, you see that they give it their all. You only in the edge of your seat. You see that these guys here have a passion. I think it's passion rather than belief. So it's like they play here with their souls. England, everything in England is just so official. It's like, you're playing to get a few caps. Increase your profile. Everything is just too official. I don't think there's many players in England who have that passion for football, and that's what I think is the reason. Is what the FA should do is they should start investing in sending players abroad. If there's an up-and-coming player, send him abroad, pay for everything. Get him to like Napoli, get him to spread them across the world, let them learn how to develop a passion for the sport itself, and not just because England they play. And it's not just the manager. They just like it's just the setup. It's just the players because when they're growing up here, they coach all the fitness out of them. Everything is too official. You know, there's not even like you pass the ball, you lob it, you cross it, you score. There's no like finesse training. There's no like caressing the ball, hold up play, kind of possession sort of. There's no passion to it. It's just too official. So that's what I think is the problem.
I hear you on that, bro. Thanks for calling in and having your say. Great points made. Top man. Thank you. Next up on the show, final caller, Donny James is here. Very quickly, what are you going to say, mate?
Terry. Firstly, the first half was so boring. I spoke to that Spurs fan, Alan, and I said, do you want to film a video while this first half's going on because it's so boring? And he was like, yeah, sure. So I filmed that during the first half because it was so boring. There was only a couple of chances. My main thing for me is one of the most underrated midfielders from that game was Bellingham. I think Bellingham had an absolutely brilliant game for me. I think he made brilliant forward passes. I think he made some brilliant runs. He was dynamic. He was forward thinking. I feel sorry for Rashford because I think Rashford's in a no-win situation with the world at the minute. It's like if he doesn't do well, he's going to get abuse for it. If he does well, people are still going to give him abuse for it. But when he gets injured and he keeps playing through an injury, it's like, what more can he do? Yeah. And I feel sorry for him. I think if I was Southgate, I'd say give him a rest. My man of the match today was Jack Grealish. I think he was dynamic. I can see why people say he's the next Paul Gascoigne, but we'll not talk about that yet. We'll give it a few years first. We'll see what he does. But I think that I was saying this on my review that I filmed a few minutes ago. It was like, I don't feel like I've got much confidence from that performance alone because it was a scrappy 1-0. I think that they sort of scrapped that, I guess. I think they got away with it. Like if Romania took many of their 14 shots they had today, then they could have got something from that. But going into the group, I still see England going out of it. But I said then in my review, I said if Southgate doesn't get us minimum semi-final Euros and minimum semi-final World Cup, he's got to go for me. And someone with a winning mentality and an attacking football mentality come in and improve this team and use your attackers at your disposal. But I think Romania were unlucky. I think they had so many chances they could have put away. The penalty from Henderson was poor. The penalty from the goal penalty from Rashford was good. And yeah, I think that we just scraped that, to be honest. But big up yourself, Terry. Big up the Terrace. And it was good to film a video with Alan from the Spurs show. So
nice, mate. Nice. Like to hear it. Top man. Thanks for coming on, James. Appreciate it, mate. Thank you. Top man. Listen, everyone who's tuned in tonight, a massive thank you to each and every single one of you. We will be tomorrow announcing our coverage and what we're doing over the course of the Euros to keep you all up to date with that. We're back later on tonight with some big transfer news for you. So make sure you stay tuned. Keep your eye out. Post coming about that very, very soon. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again